What would you do if you bought a job board that never made a profit and then COVID hit? In this episode, I'm joined by Josh Young, who turned Energy Jobline from a failing platform into a global leader in energy recruitment. He grew their candidate database from 400,000 to 2.5 million. He's now building the next big thing in data center hiring. Let's get into it. Josh, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Martin, for having me on. Pleasure to be
Pleasure.
here.
Absolute pleasure. Good to see you. So, Josh, jumping straight into it, why don't you tell us a little bit about your kind of professional background and what led you to start up Energy Jobline?
Yeah, of course. So my background, I mean, I fell like probably many people into recruitment. So I started working in engineering recruitment when I was quite young, quite money hungry. And then from there, I then joined a couple of companies. One of the main ones was Hill McGlynn, who are a big engineering construction company, recruitment business. So I joined them. I was working in London for a few years, and then went back. I'm based down in Winchester, Southampton way. So joined a branch down here, and Hill McGlynn got taken over by Randstad. And then at the time, me and three others thought, why don't we go and start our own recruitment business? So the four of us, we set on the journey. We had a startup, new recruitment company. We started just us four in a basement of one of the guys' houses. The whole backstory of starting with nothing and trying to get somewhere. We grew that company to, I think, probably about 40 people. And I was owner director of that business for 10 years. Had some good times and it was good, but I got to the point where I love recruitment. I love what recruitment is. People say I love getting people jobs. I love the money and stuff. I like, I don't know, the connection side, like bringing stuff together, making it happen. That was always my buzz and what got me out of bed. So I really enjoyed that. But then after 10 years of this company, I just felt I needed something different. So in probably like October 2019, November 19, I was thinking about what can I do. I then had this vision and image of a job board and then how I could kind of leverage off that in the way of recruitment, but also just do something completely different that's kind of linked to recruitment. So yeah, in 1st of January 2020, I bought Energy Jobline, which was an existing job board. It'd been going for 9-10 years at the time. It never made a profit. So I bought that in January 2020 with my business partner. And what I will say is we bought it 3 months before COVID. So it was quite I think my journey from there is really when it's been quite up and down. You buy a business, you put everything into it. I sold my partner in recruitment business, got some money, thought I've got his plan, got his vision. I know what I'm doing. You buy a company and then a couple of months later, COVID hit and you bought a company that's never made revenue. Then you're like, well, right, here we go. So we lost 65-70% of revenue in that year. And it was a real challenge. It was really tough, but we got through it. We actually, probably one of my proudest things, we actually posted a profit that year in COVID. So it shows how much we got a business, completely turned it around. And then, from there, it's been 5 years now that I've had Energy Jobline. We're the largest, we're the leading energy job board, focusing on oil and gas, renewables, nuclear, power generation, electric vehicle and battery storage. So that's probably brings me up to now. And then more recently, I've made a switch from Energy Jobline, which I still own, but I'm now moving to a new job board called DataPro, which is a job board exclusively for the data center industry. So digital infrastructure, it's a new hot topic. Everyone's talking about it. So that's now my focus.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely huge kind of opportunity in data
Massive.
center recruitment. Yeah, it's the new currency ultimately for the
Yeah,
AI world. Yeah.
it came about because I'll go to oil and gas conferences every year or energy conferences with Energy Jobline. About 2 years ago, I was at this conference and all my energy clients were going data centers. I'm like, what the hell is a data center? Like, what is that? Like, so then I looked it up, and one of my best friends works in data center industry, so they were talking about it a lot, and I was just like, this is something. And there's also, you can spot a gap. There's no exclusive job board to the data center industry. It is a growing industry that's going to have a workforce talent shortage. So there's lots of recruiters coming out into the data center market now, which is great because they're seeing there's a lot of positions, there's a lot of need, but there's no job board. There's no niche focused job board. And that's where I was like, me and my business partner, we sat down and said, we can do this. And we've also built a social networking platform as well, exclusive for the data center industry. So, yeah, exciting times.
Fascinating, yeah, really exciting. Well, let's want to get back to that later because it's really interesting to hear your thoughts on some of the ideas around that. But I want to go back a little bit to the story you were telling us about Energy Jobline, and how you acquired the business 3 months before COVID hit, and lost 65% of your revenue in that year, but then turned it around to make a profit. Be really interested to go back to that and just understand how you turned it around. What did you do? How did you accomplish that? It'd be interesting to hear what you learned about not only acquiring a business but then acquiring a business in a challenging time like that and turning it
Yeah.
around to something that A is profitable and B has grown into where it is today.
Yeah, I suppose it's the first time I bought a business that had been long standing, was an existing business. So it'd been run by someone else. Before I started my recruitment company from scratch. And I sometimes think that can be easy because you're doing it, you're starting the way you want to start it. You get
Yeah.
this supplier on board, you're working with this client. So we inherited a lot of clients, and at the start it looked great because they had a great client list. The difference was, they were based in London. They had 8, 9 people working for them. They had a lot of the previous management. They had a lot of services suppliers. They paid a lot of money for different marketing tools and things like that. And I always saw that I could turn it into a profit before I knew about COVID coming, because nobody predicted that. But when I sat there in January, I was like, well, I've got a lot of people here. They're all great employees, but when you look at the business, you have to kind of look at it and go, what is essential? What is needed that is going to generate revenue or generate the business to succeed? And there was a lot of people, unfortunately, and I hate saying this, but I couldn't see going forward with them. So I had to do this bullish attack on going, well, I have to make redundancies. I have to let people go. And that's probably the worst thing I've had to do, because I've done that in the 1st of March. So there was probably 6 people that I was like, I can't afford to keep you on. This is pre-COVID. I don't see... I see a worth for you as an individual and what you do, but I can't afford to keep you in because we need to make a profit. So you have to turn into this bit of an arsehole in some way to sit down with these people and go, I'm letting you go. And they go, why? And that was really tough. And we did bring them all back onto furlough because we were like, we want to help them out. But and they'd done work for us, and they were brilliant. They were really good about it. And I think they understood because the business never made a profit. But there was a lot of suppliers, a lot of things they're paying for to help with marketing, to help with advertising the jobs in different platforms, to help with some of the processes. And they weren't that great, and they were a lot of money. So you kind of go in and you look at what is there at the moment, what do we need, what don't we need? And I think we've done that really well. Prior to COVID, we sat there and we had a plan, and we said, if we cut this, this and this, we then make the business a lot more, it wasn't about the profit. We were trying to make it to be level killed, that we get to the end of the year. If we paid ourselves a little bit, but the business is going and growing, then we'd be happy. So that's what we've done really well. We're very stringent, I think, on some things. We're very tight and going, we phone people and go, we can't afford this. They then say, well, we want to keep you on board and, let's negotiate. Yes, we'll keep it or not. So I think that was probably the main thing. When COVID hit, that's probably where it got real desperation in what we've done. We had to kind of get rid of a lot of things and go back to manual use. You look at a job board, what we're doing, it's marketing. I always say job board is mainly marketing promotion. It is job board relishes on traffic. A job board relishes on applications for clients. So you're getting that return client. And one thing Energy Jobline it's got a great client base, and we had a lot of retained clients. Every year they renew their subscription. So that was brilliant. We had to keep the standards with the clients. We had to keep the relationships, keep the standards that they are getting better or the same at worse service. But we had to try and get more people to come to our site. And we just looked at different ways. At the time, AI was something, but not much of a thing. AI has been mainly the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But then we looked at some new kind of softwares that were helping us drive traffic or get our jobs out to places that they weren't getting at before. So I think we've done that really well. But we did go back to, when COVID hit, a bit more of a manual task. I was working 7 a.m. till 2 a.m. It was survival time because we lost 65% of revenue and we let loads of people go. And then you're kind of thinking, shit, like, how are we going to keep this business, up? How are we going to keep it going? Especially when clients say we can't use you anymore. We don't have any money. We're not doing any recruitment. So we've done a lot on email campaigns around branding, around marketing, just trying to keep the company's names out there. So that was our way of survival in many ways. It was just really, it was a lot of hard work. It was tough times. There was probably 4 or 5 times I sat here and just went, "This is done. We're not going to survive this." But then something would happen. We'd come up with an idea. Someone would generate some revenue. Something would generate some better interaction with a client where they want to push their brand out, and we would survive by that.
Nice. And I suppose when you're in that situation where you have to strip it out, you have to take it back to basics and create ultimately efficiency in the business. You almost go back into, even though the business has been there for several years, you almost go back into startup mode ultimately.
100%.
So I think that's kind of the interesting follow-up question that I've got, which is, somebody's thinking about the basics of starting and building a job board business. What did you find were the essentials that you actually needed?
So I think the essentials for me were, if I go back to the time, I'd say to people around me, and that's probably quite difficult. So if you're talking about a startup and somebody trying to do it themselves, then what my advice is going to be, it is going to be a hell of a lot of hard work. You're going to be working day and night because you're going to be doing everything you can to try and make what you're doing seen as amazing to your clients, so they come back and give you more. To build on something, you've got to create something great for them to build on. And I think I was lucky that I've got a great business partner who's come from a job board background. So my recruitment background, his job board, he was a sales director for a big job board company. So we kind of complemented each other. We're very different. He's northern, I'm southern. He's Thai, we've got these differences about us. And, that kind of helped us at the time, because there's things I probably would have done back then that would have perhaps led to mistakes of us getting to where we are now and might not have got us through. And it's probably the same on his side. So I always say, have great people around you. Now, if you're on a startup, that is difficult. I'll always say you're going to work hard. Just have the vision and the kind of suppliers and services you use. The job board platform. Are you making it yourself, or are you going to use a third party? Make sure you get the right third party that's going to be able to help you push your jobs out, help you build your CV database. That looks... on last 5 years, I understand how important marketing, presentation is. I think it's a key thing in everything now. You look at everyone on social media, you're your own marketing person now. You go out there, put your face on a video.
Yeah.
You're selling your personal brand, but also people click on you and go, what the hell is Energy Jobline? What the hell is DataPro? So I see that as really important. My biggest advice to anyone to go in a startup is put yourself in uncomfortable situations, get yourself out there. I've always said, go into a niche. I think the niche job boards are coming back in some way. I think they faded a little bit because you had CV Library, Indeed. I think people are realising now that the niche job boards and having people that focus on that sector, their audience, their brand is in that sector. I think that's key at the moment. I think that's where the shift has been the last 12, 18 months.
Yeah.
So anybody going into starting, right, I've got a job board idea, make sure you're kind of delivering what your vision is. It is tough, and you'll work for 6 months and not get a lot back, but then something will happen. You start getting the audience, you start getting the visitors, and then you build on that.
Excellent. I think that's great. Yeah, I totally agree. I think having people around you is one of the best pieces of advice you can give, especially to anybody that's starting up. And I know that, like you said, it's difficult if you're kind of a solo founder and you don't have somebody with you, but there are so many different communities out there and networking groups and what have you that you can also join and just bounce ideas off of people that are going through the same, challenges that you are.
You'll be very surprised. I've used a lot of friends. I've used people like, I believe in collaboration and partnership. I don't see anyone as a competitor. There's some people that are like, this is my sector, you're not coming in, and I don't want to be threatened. I've never believed in that. I always believe in collaboration. And you'll be surprised, if I was in a startup now, if I started a business tomorrow and it was just me in this little office and I had to go out there, I would reach out to people on my LinkedIn networks, all my friends, and say, look, I want to do this. I've got this marketing idea. Could you just help me implement it? You will be surprised how many people support you when you're a startup and want you to get up there and want you to achieve. So I always say, believe in collaboration, believe in partnerships, get out there, make some noise. You will be shocked by the amount of people that go, look, I'd love to help you. Don't worry about paying me. They will see something probably in the back end in a year's time, 2 years' time. Because if you start needing marketing services, and you've used someone, they've given you a bit of advice for free, they're going to be the first person you go, look,
Absolutely.
I've got a couple of hours work, it's 50 quid now, 100 quid now, whatever it is, would you love to come and do it? So I do believe in karma. I believe in you giving, so that's how I do approach it if I sign up.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I totally agree on that. Totally agree. I want to go back to a comment that you made about retained business and repeat business and what have you, because I think that this is something that a lot of job boards potentially do struggle with in the early stages. Is the first one is, how do you find clients? The second one is, how do you monetize those clients? And the third one is, how do you get repeat business? Now, for you, I know you kind of bought a business that already had, a lot of clients and what have you. So we can kind of skip that bit because we've covered that a lot on this show. But what I'd like to talk about is monetization and retention for repeat business, because you mentioned something earlier about annual subscriptions. And that kind of flagged a note in my head because, excuse me, because a lot of job board businesses, as they charge on time based, ultimately. So you post a job, lasts for 30 days, costs you a couple of £100. Now you mentioned subscriptions, so I wanted to dive a little bit more into your monetization strategy and understand a little bit more about how you monetize Energy Jobline. And then kind of go on to how you ensure that that's a success for your clients and you're delivering on that value, but also how you end up repeating business and retaining clients year after year. So if we could just kind of talk a little bit more about monetization and your kind of commercial strategy, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So when I took over the business, we had a CV database of 400,000 candidates. The job postings was probably the biggest part of it. So a lot of when I got in and looked at what the salespeople were doing, they're pushing out 5 job postings for the price of 4, a couple £100 each. Instead of £1,000, pay £800 or dollars, whatever. So we still have that. We still have job postings, but I think what's happened with Energy Jobline is we've gone from having 400,000 in January 2020. We now have a CV database of 2.5 million today. So we've got 150,000 jobs posted. A client can come to our site, they can post a job for £200 or £300. So depending on whether it's a premium job or a featured job. So they can buy job postings. That's something we find a lot of the energy clients. There's quite a talent shortage, and it's the same with data centers, the new market I'm going into. There's a workforce shortage, and a lot of clients want people from similar industries. Now, what I would always say about Energy Jobline set up very well. We're niche in the energy sector. Our biggest competition is solely focused on the oil and gas sector. Mm-hmm. Where we kind of grew our database quite quickly is because we're within the energy sector that covers oil and gas, that covers renewables, covers nuclear, electric vehicle, battery storage, power generation. We have a lot of clients that want access to the CV database because they want to go and, oil and gas clients, there's not many people coming through the colleges, university going, I want to be an oil and gas drilling engineer. I want to go and be a reservoir engineer. So companies, oil and gas companies, are looking at renewables people, energy people, engineering people to bring over. Yeah. So we've taken a bit of a shift that our CV database has become our kind of our jewel. That's what a lot of people want access to. 2.5 million people globally, all focused within the energy sector. The subscription model is usually based around that. And with the job postings on the side, we say to clients, if you're a corporate client, you can have access to the CV database. We know you want that. You're trying to reduce recruitment agency spend, or you're trying to, you're seeing people on LinkedIn, but you want their contact details. So we have that CV database. That's probably the value that they get. And then we say to them, well, you can advertise your jobs as well. So we've got things like API we can scrape all jobs from a client's website. We can have it automatically go into the ACS and everything else. So the whole process of, you can have this database to go and find your own people, and we'll promote your brand and jobs. That's probably where, when I mention like annual subscription, that's where the bigger companies, mid-sized companies, they don't do it. Smaller companies, they might have 3 jobs and they say, can we post these 3 jobs? We can do a pay-as-you-go type thing. And it's the same with the CV database. It's not just you have to have 12-month subscription. That's it. We are flexible. The business shift for us was that when I took over, it was quite 12-month contracts. It was job postings for 30 days. And it was, if you wanted database access, it was minimum like 9 months. when COVID hit, you then when COVID started to we came out of lockdown and people started leaving the house. You had a few clients phone and say, oh, we've got 2 jobs, or, we don't want to access to the database for a year. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID. We want it for a
Yeah.
month. So we then became more flexible and going, well, look, what do you need? And we can give that. We're not here to, I don't have a Ferrari and a drive. We've always made money, reinvested it into the tech behind it. We've always made sure that the business is delivering a service. The value is in the asset itself, but we have to deliver to the businesses. So we're quite flexible in our payments and subscriptions and everything else. And that really changed after COVID.
Nice. I like that. I think you're right. I think, the world of work has become a lot more flexible. And so, and does that, so I think we have to kind of match that. So I do agree. I do agree on that. That's really cool. And so going on to the retention, the retainment, how much effort or even resource have you invested in client relationships ultimately?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the people you're working with. We've got our sales team, they're great people, but they're not just getting the client on and then that's it. Clients, they like to be seen, they like to be heard and like to be talked to. And I think account management's key. I think, giving things like, updates and what we're doing as a business and the tech behind it. Yeah. I think meeting your clients, I've always been a face-to-face kind of person that likes to meet. And unfortunately in this world now, we've got a lot of clients that are overseas and I'd always try and meet them if I can, if I'm in that country. But, just having a Teams meeting, always being there. I think our brand is always, we've kind of fallen into, a lot of people know we're there, a lot of people know of us. And it's just, people come to us now because they know Energy Jobline. They know that we're there, what we do. It's when you're a startup, you really have to be out there making noise and kind of do it. And we still do that. But I suppose my shift in focus coming away from Energy Jobline now to going to DataPro, I'm being a lot more noisier about data centers, about DataPro. I'm making sure that my brand, our business being seen. But I think the retention side is they get applications, they've got access to a great CV database, they're finding candidates. If a direct client is finding great candidates, they're saving on recruitment agency costs. Our agencies are finding great candidates, they're making fees while sending them to the clients. That's why they come back. So I'd always say, it's the account management, the people that are, we don't have robots delivering this. I get a few phone calls now and you can tell it's an AI person trying to sell you insurance. We could do that. I would never do that. It's people on people. So I always think we've got my mentor, the guy that actually bought the company off, he retained some percentage in it. A guy called Tom Glanfield, owns LHI Recruitment. His motto was always be the dumbest person in the boardrooms. And what he means by that is have great people around you because then they're delivering a great service. And it's my marketing guys, my sales guys. I think that's why we get the retention because they're the ones putting stuff out and reaching out to the clients.
Nice. I like that. I think it's really important to make sure you do retain those relationships because you can rest on your reputational laurels all you want, but ultimately people are fickle, and especially in the world of recruitment, people move from company to company, and somebody who headed up recruitment in an energy business one day might be heading up recruitment in a hospitality business the next day, and so you have to actually make sure that that you're nurturing those relationships. So that's
people and people, isn't it? It's I always say it's people don't do business with businesses; they do it with people. And we're not a corporate company. We're not huge. A lot of job boards have been taken over by bigger companies, and then the service changes and everything else. We've always, I think, I hate to say it, COVID kind of helped us as a business. It, made me cry and sweat and everything else. Trying to keep it survive, but at the same time, we had to do things differently. And I do wonder if COVID hadn't happened, how we would be as a business, because it probably would have been a lot easier. And sometimes when it's easier, you get a little bit lazier and stuff, where we've always been on our toes. We've had to, build this business, build the brand to be great because we've had survival mode. And I think that's probably helped us to where we are today.
Nice. So I'd like to ask this question. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on it. If you could go back to, 5 years ago when you first kind of kicked off your time with Energy Jobline, if you could do anything different, what would you do?
5 years ago, I would say, so I do quite a bit on social media now. I'm doing posts on LinkedIn. I do videos on LinkedIn. I hate to say it because I'm not, a 12-year-old girl dancing in front of the mirror, but I'm doing stuff on TikTok for data centers, but, I'm getting quite good traction on that. And, things like you look at the people out there, I'm not trying to be an influencer in the market or anything like that. I believe that if you get your face out and people actually know you, they see what you're about, then they follow your brand. You come first, and then your brand, your company comes after. And I think 5 years ago, I've never been great on social media. I've done videos in the past, but I think if I'd done more of this earlier, it could have elevated the brand more. I'll probably say that's probably my one thing, but it's not regret. It's come about now that I am doing it, and I have to get out there, put my name out there, because again, it comes back to people do business. Some people probably see my videos, see my face, hear my voice, and hate me, or can't stand, and you're going to get that, which is fine, as long as it's not 99% of people. I know my mum would watch it and give a like. So, but it's. I think 5 years ago, probably something to put myself out there more, and even a business more. Like I believe that now. You look at the way social media is. I think people like seeing the journey. So with DataPro, the new platform, we're hopefully launching next week. But I want to put out there the journey. I'm going to say like how many jobs we got on this week from new clients. I'm going to say what our traffic levels are. What I'm going to kind of go out there going, we've had a great week, and then other weeks I'm going to go, it's been a shit week because we've not had loads of people come to site or whatever. I think people like that. People like seeing a startup get from some place to somewhere else. Cool. So that's what I do different.
Yeah, I like that. The kind of whole, behind the scenes kind of, look at the business is really transparent and really, I think that's a really good way of building, reputation and your name is to be transparent about what it's like to build a business like this. So I think that's a really cool idea. I like that. So lastly, we've talked very briefly about the next business, the new job board, DataPro. So tell me a little bit more about what's next for that. How that's going to impact Energy Jobline. What does the next 12 months hold for you?
So probably the most excited I've ever been. First off, so the next 12 months I'm generally buzzing for. I think when you talk about DataPro, like I said, it's data center focused, which is mainly engineers, managers. There is a lot of cross reference from energy because to have a data center, you've got to have energy next to it. Yes. So for me, at the start, I did look at it separately. I was like, I've got a new business, DataPro, data centers. The more time goes on, I see a huge link. I have two companies here. One that's got a huge database of engineers. And, the oil and gas markets, energy markets, renewables, etc., are still buoyant. There's still workforce shortage. I do think some of the processes and the ways of getting things done is still a bit slow. Mm-hmm. You've got a market in data centers which is fast growing. It's rapid at the moment. It's really making noise. I think it's going to be a lot of transferable skills amongst them. So I feel we're in a good stead in the way that we've got a business with engineers and we can try and attract them to the data center market. But at the same time, I have a huge passion for the energy market. It's been what I've been in for so many years. I want to take people out and put them in the data centers, but at the same time, I don't want the energy market to kind of have a thing. So it's a good situation to be in. We've got two good markets where people can work within. For the platform itself, I say we've built a social networking side. So if you imagine LinkedIn and Facebook had a night together and then a baby, that's what our social network site is. It's not a corporate LinkedIn side. It's not a thing, but it's just exclusive to the data center market. So it's where people can network and talk about projects. I'm really excited for DataPro. DataPro will be more AI driven because everyone is, and that's what everyone says when they're talking about job board. But searching and matching for candidates, and for clients. So put your CV on. Here's the relevant jobs, and we've got auto apply robots in the background, kind of bots, I should say, that will go and help that person whilst asleep, get them interviews. So we've got some really cool AI tech in the background of it.
Nice.
I think we're just going into an industry that doesn't have a job board at the moment, and it just seems the most exciting thing.
Excellent. Well, that's super exciting. I'm really definitely want to keep in touch and find out how that goes. It sounds like a really exciting project. But look, for now, I think that's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for sharing the benefit of your experience over the last several years. Josh, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Take care.
Take care.